All right, folks. So we have come across the different aspects of understanding literature, the ways of studying literature, how to become good readers, as part of our journey through W. H. Hudson's an introduction to the study of literature. So basically, we've understood that how to become good readers in the sense that a reader should have a proper knowledge of the author and how the reader will understand the influences which are actually propagated the author to write a particular work and things like that. We've go through all the points in the second part of the first chapter by W. H. Hudson. Well, in the third part, actually, what Hudson is saying is about how to broaden your sense of reading. How can you envisage the standard of reading a particular book? How can you scientifically approach a book, scientifically read a book, uh, to be precise, as W. Hudson is saying. So, what he is, initially, W. Hudson is dividing the readers into two different categories, in which he says that the initial category comprises of readers who are readers for the sake of reading, who reads some kind of books without any kind of approach, without any kind of impulses, in order to read a book, in order to understand the author, in order to get influenced by the book. So they are reading the book just for the sake of reading, just for the sake of what we can say that you can you know, spend some time in front of book. That's what the initial sect of the category of readers are meant to be. However, in the second section, or the second category of readers, as per Hudson, is are genuine readers. They are genuine readers in the sense that they used to read books not just for reading, not just for sake of reading, but they are more of a scientific approach. They are applying more of a scientific approach in order to understand the author in the general sense, the amount of influences made by the author, as well as the influences which he uh, gotten during the writing, the process of writing, in fact. So, in order to do that, what Hudson is saying, that in order to become a good reader, in order to become a broader reader, in order to enlarge or envisage the reading capacity of a reader, what you should do is that the basic thing is that you should understand the author first. You should understand the author in the sense that what you need to do is that you need to chronologically arrange the works written by a particular order. So if you arrange the chronological order of the books written by an author, you will come to know about the different ages in which, or the different periods in which the author was able to write about the socio-political, cultural, and economical aspects of the period, or of the era in which he lived, of the political crisis, of the influences during that political crisis, of any kind of diseases which happened during that period, and stuff like that will be dealt in a kind of in different kind of approaches in the works written by a particular author. For that, what Hudson is saying, that he's carving in the example of William Shakespeare. If you want to understand William Shakespeare as an author, what you need to do is that you need to arrange the works written by Shakespeare in the correct chronological order. So, if you're able to do it in the correct manner, what you will be doing in the final sense is that you will be able to understand the period in which he lived, the approaches, or the influences made by Queen Elizabeth I during that period, the political problems, the kingdom-wise problems, and the problems with the Italian nation during that period, the Rome, The different problems which happened during that period will be encroached in William Shakespeare's different works. For that, he said, you can take the example of Shakespeare's four major tragedies: the Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth, and King Lear. So, if you take that as an example, or if you analyze the works of Shakespeare, or if you analyze the four great tragedies of William Shakespeare, you will understand the level of changes that happened during that period for William Shakespeare as a writer. So, if you take an example of Othello as one instance, you will come to know about the battles that fought between England and the Spanish, the Spain during that period, the Spanish Armada, and in fact the British Empire. So different kinds of approaches, different kinds of problems are being dealt by writers during that period. So initially, what Hudson is saying that what you need to do is that you need to arrange the books in the chronological order. Books written by a person, a writer in the chronological order. Then you can compare and contrast each and every book with the author. So you compare and contrast the writer with himself. The writer with himself. He's saying that the experiences, the influence upon him of his experiences in the world, the growth of his mind, the mental ability of his mind, the relations he engaged in, the passions involved in, and the temper in which he wrote the different works during that period. It's kind of expressions of the personality of a writer, the expressions of the personality of a writer. So that is the first kind of approach that has been recommended by W.H. Hudson in order to understand, in order to become a reader in the wider sense, the reader in the broader sense. It's the first step. You need to arrange the works written by a person in the chronological order. The second one is that you need to compare and contrast the author with himself, with the author himself. And the third one, as per W. Hudson, is that you need to compare and contrast the author with his contemporaries. Shakespeare with his contemporaries. Contemporaries included, Ben Jonson, Christopher Marlowe, or John Webster, or any kind of Bowman, Fletcher, you name it. You can compare and contrast Shakespeare with these great authors as well, these great dramatists as well, by the way. There are some people who used to say that. Nowadays, also people have this kind of opinion that Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe are both same writers. We're not sure of that. We don't have any kind of evidences to prove that Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe are both the same writer. And why people used to say that, why researchers are saying that, why we are getting confused of this, is that Christopher Marlowe's famous work is the Dr. Faustus. Sorry, Dr. Faustus, written by Christopher Marlowe. So Dr. Faustus is at par or equally great as Shakespeare's Hamlet or Shakespeare's King Lear. It's both of a tragic and kind of incident happened in both these books, or the tragedies which are written by Shakespeare and the tragedy that is written by Dr. Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus. So both are of the same kind. So possible reasons are the time in which they lived. Shakespeare, the period of Shakespeare is like 1564 to 1616. It's almost the same period as Christopher Marlowe. So the same kind of political influence, the same kind of cultural problems, capital problems, political, economic, and social problems were influenced in deep by both these writers. Even John Webster also. John Webster's Duchess of Malfi is also almost of the same kind. It's kind of tragedy. But these are all tragic kind of works, which W. Hudson is saying to compare and contrast the authors among themselves in order to understand the influences in which they have written the work. And he's further moving on to say that you should consider, as a reader, as a student of literature, you should consider a book as a organic whole, as a corpus in the sense that, in the biological sense, that as a body, as a human body, or organic whole, or corpus. Why? Because you need to understand the book right from the head till the toes, from where it started and where it ended. What are the influences in which the writer, you know, made possible? Writer wrote this work. Writer made this work possible. These are the things that are to be considered when you read a book, when you try to understand a work, especially as students of literature, not others. Because you are students of literature, your reading should be scientific, not kind of reading for the time, for the time, or for the sake of killing your time, killing your spare time. It's entirely different when it comes to understanding, researching, or scientifically approaching work as per W. H. Hudson. So, what W. H. Hudson further moves on to say that, there are a lot of writers during that period, during the Elizabethan period, who wrote in the same sense, who wrote their works in the same sense. So the answer is not far to seek. The most natural and the most profitable of all plans of study that might be suggested as per Hudson is nothing but chronological comparison of works written by a particular author. Chronological comparison of works. And that is why he wanted to bring in the example of Shakespeare. So, a very good example by Hudson, because you have enough copies available, you have enough analysis available, enough review available. Then, Shakespeare is one of the kind of writer who has got, enough researches are going on even till now. It depends upon how Shakespeare has involved or influenced a large mass of people. Even now, even after 6 centuries, Shakespeare's works are influenced by a huge lot of people. So that is the influence, that's influence which can be made by a potential influence that can be made by a writer. So think in that way as per Hudson. So as students of literature, you should think in that way. We shall find ourselves through the chronology. Sometimes there is a possibility that if you arrange these books written by major authors in the chronological order, there is a possibility that you will also find yourself amongst the characters, or at some places or the other you will be finding yourself there. You will be standing there as a character in one of the books. So there are different things or different approaches as per Hudson in order to understand and receive the standards, the styles of literature. So the next important thing as per Hudson is that the next step is to sharpen the reader's impression of the writer's personality by comparing him with other writers. It's a kind of sharpening the impression of the writer. The student of Shakespeare almost inevitably turns to Shakespeare's greater contemporaries. If you are a student of Shakespeare, you will definitely turn to Shakespeare's contemporaries if you want to understand Shakespeare really. If you want to understand the real Shakespeare, you will definitely turn your focus on Shakespeare's contemporaries. So then you will understand what made Shakespeare a different personality, what made Charles Dickens a different personality among the writers, among the geniuses, and what made what made Tennyson uh, kept outside the box when you compare him with other writers? What made Browning or Wordsworth uh, and stand apart when you compare them with other writers during the period? So it all depends upon the writers or the ages in which, the period in which they have written their works. So the basic thing is, as per Hudson, is that the doctrine through the third part of the first chapter is that all higher knowledge is gained by comparison, and everything rests on comparison. So comparison is the best possible method in order to understand literature, in order to understand reading, in order to widen, in order to broaden your attitude towards reading. So you compare and contrast. You will understand the writer, you will understand the socio-political economic aspects during the period, the influence, the mental growth of the writer as a writer, of the person as a writer, the transformation period of a writer. If there is any gap, you will also understand that. The understanding about a particular period, a particular era, it's extremely riveting when it comes to their uh, if you know the history of that period. So it's a kind of um, multilingual or multicultural studies which is happening over there. It's multidisciplinary as well, because you are trying to understand a writer through his readings. So over a period of time, you will try to understand, you will also try to understand about the history of that period as well. So it's kind of multidisciplinary approach, literature and history together. The basic thing is that you are trying to understand the author pretty much as the period. So that is the overall view of Hudson's third portion or third part of the first chapter. Literally speaking, what Hudson meant to say is that it's better to compare in order to understand the author in the right sense. So in order to become a reader in a broader manner, what you need to do is that you need to compare and contrast the works of the same author with himself and with the contemporaries of his period as well. So it is a scientific approach. Very nice to have such great thought by W.H. Hudson. All right, thank you so much and have a good day. And thanks for your attention.